call Saul. Better call Saul. Better call Saul. Better call Saul. Hello beautiful people. Today I have a little bit of a different kind of video. Usually I do chaotic movie reactions, but today I kind of wanted to take a breather from that. Talk about something that was truly magnificent. Obviously, spoiler warning to anybody who hasn't seen Better Call Saul. This will completely ruin your viewing experience. If you haven't seen the show, just go watch the show. I'm telling you, the payoff in the end is worth it. The finale felt insanely satisfying. Like, this is one of the best finales I've ever seen to a series. Where do we even begin? I guess we begin from the beginning of the episode. I loved how they interspliced these flashbacks with multiple key people in Jimmy's life. First with Mike, and then with Walter, and then of course with his brother Chuck. And in each of those moments, the idea of traveling back in time was a factor. And I started getting this overarching theme of regrets. When he first talks to Mike, they're talking about what would you do if you could travel back in time. Mike's answer is in regards to how he affected the people around him by becoming a hitman, which I found really cool. Contrast, Jimmy's answer has to do with money. And Mike even calls him out on this and he says, that's all you care about? It's just money for you, huh? Not only does he get, obviously, a thrill in conning people, but he just loves money. And so his main motivation being money, and that being, you know, a big theme for both his character and the show, was huge, and I'm happy that they highlighted that in this episode as well. It really shows the full circle that comes later on in the episode that we'll talk about. And obviously the other regret when he's talking to Walt, fast forward, talks about Slip and Jimmy. It just has nothing to do with the people he's wronged. It's clear as day that he's still at a point in his life where he feels like he doesn't have any regrets in regards to people, that he's just the slimy Saul Goodman. And then I thought for sure it was brilliant and really tied it all together, seeing that in the flashback with Chuck. He was reading a book titled The Time Machine, so obviously he got this whole time machine idea from Chuck. The flashback as well, Chuck mentions something very important and tells Jimmy, you know, you can always change your path. You could always change your path. Jimmy kind of shrugs this off. He doesn't really think anything of that, but again, this obviously comes into play in this episode. And I just love the thought process that Vince and Peter have for this finale, because obviously these flashbacks aren't there for nothing. You know, these flashbacks are to show what Saul became, what Saul was, and the path that he himself has chosen to take for himself. Flash forward, Gene is gone, thanks to my girl Marion. Love you, Marion. Gene is now on the run, ends up in a pile of trash where he belongs. Having him put in a trash can is so so metaphorical. Obviously Gene is trash at this point, so he's literally inside trash where he belongs. Finicking, trying to contact the vacuum disappear guy. Boom! Cops show up. I feel like a lot of people thought he was gonna die in this finale, and I kept saying, I was like, no, he has to end up in jail. The huge theme of this show is Jimmy being lawful versus Jimmy being corrupt, and so I thought it was only fitting that him being a lawyer defending people from going to jail, it turns out that he himself ends up going to jail. You know, like I thought that was the perfect way the show could have ended, and it fucking did. Haha, we still have like an hour left after he gets caught, and I kept wondering to myself, I'm like, how are they gonna wrap this up? Then we start seeing Gene disappearing and the persona of Saul coming to fruition once again, trying to swivel his way out of his 100+ year sentence and bringing it down to 7 years, which I also found really cool because this show itself has been going on for 7 years, so I feel like that wasn't a coincidence either. Me personally, at this point, I was hating him. I was hating Saul. I know it was very much in line with his character and very Saul Goodman of him to still try and weasel his way and play his game like he always does. And I love that the episode did that because it's not Saul if he's not doing a con of some sort, right? Personally, it would have been unsatisfying seeing him get off a little bit scot-free, because that's pretty much scot-free. That's 7 years, and then plus depending on good behavior, right? So depending on good behavior, he could have easily gotten out within like 3 or 4 years. And that's it. To me, seeing him caught but then not really facing up to any consequences would have been pretty disheartening. At the end of the day, just like Walter, we know he's not a good person. We know at this point he has done a lot of damage. Inadvertently and inadvertently, he has done a lot of damage. And especially within these last few episodes, you know, the fact that he might have been willing to murder Marion, the fact that he was willing to go through with that scheme with the guy with cancer, that he just couldn't let that go. Just seeing him dive deeper and deeper into his madness, I just felt like that he deserved a proper sentencing. Love these characters, but you know they're bad. And you know realistically they don't deserve to get off scot-free. Also, shout out to freaking Marie. Did y'all expect that? Because I didn't. It's Marie. How you doing? How's the rock collecting? They're minerals, sorry, minerals.
They're minerals! Jesus, Marie!
The speech she gave to Saul, oof. Ooh. And it just goes to show that's just one person that he caused so much damage to. See that he was still being scummy, had his scummy little speech prepared, and I was so happy that the cop didn't buy it. Like, immediately he shut it down. I really think people are gonna buy that. And he's like, all I need is one. All I need is one. Bitch. At this point, he knows that Kim has gone to the authorities about Howard's death, and so with the way they kept showing his face and his reaction, I kept thinking to myself, shit. Kim's done. I felt so bad because I really thought he was gonna drag her, and at that point I kept hating him more and more and more. To hurt someone so important to him like Kim, if there is anyone that he has ever loved in his lifetime, it would be Kim. And so for him to hurt her, that would just be the lowest of low, in my opinion. That would be just the last straw. We finally get that amazing shot of him walking to the courtroom with his flashy Saul Goodman suit and all, and it was just magic. This is the part where I could be wrong, and I think it is up to audience's interpretation for it. Let me know your thoughts on it. Either seeing Kim in person changes his heart, or he always had this planned from when he heard that Kim was talking to the authorities. Either one, I'm not too sure. It's up to interpretation. I think it would have been when he started hearing that Kim was talking to the authorities. I really do. Who knows? Again, I would love to hear your interpretation of it. He enters the courtroom, starts splewing his bullshit. As soon as he started splewing his bullshit and saying the exact same shit he fed the cops earlier, oh my god, I just kept shaking my head. Thankfully, we get probably my favorite scene out of the whole damn series in this. I loved this. I loved this. Saul finally has his moment. He finally has his I did it for me, Heisenberg, Walter White moment, and admits to everything he has done. And I was shocked. I honestly did not think he would have it in him to do that. Finally decided to become Jimmy McGill as his final persona, and it was beautiful to see. For him to finally do the right thing for once in his life was just such a moment. His whole speech, you know, from talking about Walter White, and this is something I've noticed the fans have kept saying too in the comments for different videos, is that essentially he's responsible for Walter White. Walter White did a lot of his own bidding, of course, and made his own decisions and actions. However, if it wasn't for Saul, he wouldn't have grown to have been as big as he was. Saul introduced him to Gus. Saul got him out of the cops, going into jail multiple times. He wouldn't have grown his empire and killed as many people as he did had it not been for Saul. Saul was a huge component into Walter's success. For him, obviously, to admit to Howard and having taken part in his death, and as well as clearing Kim's name, also beautiful. It just goes to show that he does truly love and care for Kim. Finally admits to being a part of Chuck's death. Again, not directly, but indirectly, you know, feeling the responsibility and weight of Chuck's death. In contrast too to when we had that court scene, I forget which season, I'll look it up after, but we had that scene where he's admitting to missing his brother, you know, and being jealous of his brother and always wanting to be like his brother, admiring, respecting him, to then being like, well, it was just a trick, it was just Saul. Going from that courtroom scene to this courtroom scene, oh, it's like night and day. See Saul constantly being corrupt, being a lying, manipulative person in court throughout the series, to now having him being honest in a courtroom. The smallest of details, I'm sure a lot of you noticed, and I noticed it immediately. As soon as he started talking about Chuck, we get the focus on the electricity sound of the exit sign, and it's just perfect. And then to have him go back to Bill, which, shout out to Bill, what a trooper. And Bill, you know, says to him, why did you even mention that? What was all that about Chuck? I wasn't a crime. He looks to him and says, yeah, it was. Finally, yes, he is back to being James McGill. And if it wasn't clear enough to us, the audience, he obviously corrects the judge and tells her it's McGill. I am James McGill. And it's a full circle moment. He finally goes back to being James McGill. He's also so smart. Talking about time travel throughout this whole episode, and funny enough, I would say that Jean has now time traveled back into being James McGill. Just brilliant. See him going throughout the series from James McGill to Saul Goodman to Jean to now going from Jean to Saul back to James. We then get the Better Call Saul moment on the bus, which is just the best thing ever. Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul. We get Kim visiting him at the end, and they do their iconic smoke together. Now Jimmy is free in his cage. He is now free in his cage. He may be in prison, but I feel like he's never been freer in his life. He's obviously gonna stay in jail until he dies. That's where he'll be, but it's fine with me. It's such a bittersweet ending. Could not have ended more perfectly for his character, for realistic reasons, because some shows don't like to end realistically. Those who didn't like the ending, because I have seen a few comments here and there saying that they wanted him to take the 7-year deal, that, you know, why was he so stupid and didn't take the 7-year deal? He had it. There's no character growth, you know? And I get it. Like, they could have let it be that way. They really could have, and it just would have been the downfall of a con man. We just would have seen him being skeevy up until the end, and that could have been a thing. I honestly wouldn't have minded it. I think it could have been very fitting, but this just felt more satisfactory to me. And I feel like for a lot of the fans it was very satisfactory to see him finally being a good person. It would have been disheartening to see him learning nothing from his mistakes and just ending being a skeevy bastard. I've also seen y'all saying that he's a simp for Kim. Oh my god, he's just simping over Kim. No. I think Kim is just an inspiration to him, but she never forced him to do anything, right? Like, it's not like he knows he's not gonna be with Kim ever again, right? So what is he gaining really out of this, right? Other than doing the noble thing. So for me, it was him making the decision himself, but with Kim being his inspiration. Yeah, just overall, this was perfect. And I really wanted to talk about this because it's rare. It's so rare for a series finale to end the best way it could end, you know what I mean? I've come across so many shows where they just fumble the bag so hard for the series finale. Oh, it's so frustrating to me. It's so frustrating because the writing either is just sloppy, it makes no sense, they try doing things for shock value but just makes no sense in accordance to what was set up before, it's not realistic, like there's just so many finales that are just shit. And there's the rare few that are amazing, like obviously Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad's finale was perfect to me. Don't come at me that it's not, because it was. And then obviously coming from the same creators, they made this finale, and this finale was perfect. I just really wanted to talk about it and highlight it because it gives me hope for TV. It gives me hope that other writers will look and see how you can do a fantastic finale. You know, all of your thoughts on the finale, on the show in general, what maybe some of your favorite moments of the whole show was, what are your takeaways from the finale, what were your favorite moments from the finale, and just your overall thoughts, what you thought of the finale. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, beautiful freaks. Mwah. I just pulled a Saul Goodman because I don't need glasses. Ha!